Dog.
Now you're welcome along. So we are looking forward to the Champions League action ahead for obvious reasons. Real Madrid are in Manchester. We'll talk to Dan McDonald right across the football show. We will keep you updated. We have the not so small matter of Leinster La Rochelle on Saturday. It promises to be a match for the ages, really. Brilliant, I promise you, assure you. Brilliant preview with Matt Williams and Jerry Thornley is coming your way after 8 o'clock. Not to mention, Saturday evening at the 3 Arena, Katie Taylor does it in front of a home crowd. So Gavin Casey will be here in studio at this hour to preview. That is the general plan. Do get in touch. 53106 is the text number. We are at Off the Ball on Twitter. Will is alongside me in studio. Hello.
Evening, Joe.
And Richie McCormack, what's going on?
Lads, what's the crack?
Yeah, all good. So, sport's interesting this time of year, isn't it? We have this evening in the Champions League, we have European Cup final in Dublin on Saturday, followed by undisputed world title fight in Dublin on Saturday evening, and I guess whatever else you're having. Manchester City to win the Premier League on the weekend as well, Will. That's less of a perilous question mark, I suppose.
Down the totem pole
Yeah.
in the order of things as well. There is a certain feel about Bernard Dunn fighting for a world title just after Ireland had won the Grand Slam, and that they feel about it, where a lot of people are obviously going to sit down, watch the rugby between Leinster and La Rochelle, and then potentially either go to the 3 Arena if they were able to get tickets, or watch it on the Zone afterwards.
And Liverpool beat the Manx. Of course, that was a famous part of Bernard Dunn's speech. Liverpool won, Ireland won, I've won.
And guess who was the first fight in the card the last time that Bernard Dunn defended his world title in Dublin?
Not Katie.
Katie Taylor.
Oh,
Yeah.
full circle.
It's been a long time. Rigondeaux in 2011 was the last world title in boxing to be defended in the city of Dublin. So it's been a long, long time since this happened.
Was at that fight, believe it or not. Yes. We had commentary of it here in News Talk. Jerry Gilroy did commentary. And I was there. It was very much on the weekend sports show, which I was producing, Jerry was hosting. And I can now, more so like with the benefit of the subsequent years, but even at the time I remembered it quite well. But I remember Steve Bunce, who was on co-commentary with Jer, saying, come here, I want to meet, gotta meet this guy. And this very strapping fella came over with a full head of hair. I said, you gotta meet this guy. Tyson, meet Jer. And Tyson Fury had a chat on the air that he going to do big things, this guy.
I think he was still seen as Irish at the time as well, was he?
I'm sure we're claiming him, maybe.
He was, yeah.
Can't remember. But that was also a night where I don't think we quite realised what we had in our hands in Rigondeaux. Big Bang Willie Casey. It was a struggle. Would have been a struggle for anyone. And so 2011, that was the last world title fight in Dublin at City West. Yeah, well, that'll be a theme, I suppose, of the conversation with Gavin at 7:30. Dublin very much vying and trying to say it's open for business again for boxing events of this magnitude, although, it's very interesting if you take it as a sample size of the coverage in The Guardian. Donald McRae's piece is, yes, Dublin is open for business. However, there is still very much an underbelly to this situation, and that's not good, and it hasn't gone away. So, it's not like if you were, for instance, just reading The Guardian coverage, you would say, oh, let's have World Fight in Dublin ASAP. There's almost a sense of an exception being made here for Katie, because it's Katie, I think.
A little bit, I think. Yeah, I mean, you can't either get away from the fact that Jamie Moore, who's been a previous supporter of Daniel Kinahan and an MTK stableman himself up until a few years ago, is in the corner for Chantal Cameron, who's going to be fighting Katie Taylor. Herself, Chantal Cameron, who formerly boxed under the MTK umbrella coming into this fight. But there is, I think, definitely an overall, I don't know how you feel about this, Rich, an overall goodwill feeling about the fact that this is the overdue homecoming for Katie Taylor, and no matter what happens against Chantal Cameron, that Serrano at Croke Park feels like it's looming and it's going to happen. Even when you look at what Eddie Hearn has had to say about how lucrative this fight has been, even though they were looking at a capacity under 10,000 as opposed to filling out Croke Park, I feel like he's doing the soft sell of Croke Park happening later this year already.
Yeah, there's a higher price point in terms of tickets, and I know Chantal Cameron, we'll probably get to that clip a little bit later on, touches on it when she was speaking to Aisling out in Dundrum today. Dennis Hogan, I think, on this morning's OTB AM hinted that, Croker is going to happen. I don't think, judging from what Hearn's previously said, be it, different podcasts or in the news or whatever, Croker is still very much in their crosshairs. And yeah, I'd be surprised if it doesn't happen. That depends on how Serrano, of course, gets on in her next outing, which is no small feat either. But yeah, I'd agree with Joe. I think this is if this wasn't Katie Taylor, if this was a male Irish boxer headlining this event, I don't think we'd be talking about a big Dublin fight just yet, because it's too close to all of that. Like, it really is too close. And the stuff that's gone on in the background as well, with potential sponsorships involving Conor McGregor and things like that, there's still a really uneasy, buttressing to this fight, I think you'd say. That will take years for that kind of stuff to go away. It really will. And even the talk of where funding for certain boxing clubs and all that comes from as well, that's out there in the ether too. Like, it's not a good environment. And fingers crossed that basically everything will be centred around Katie Taylor and Katie Taylor winning on Saturday, because the last thing you need is a distraction of a security matter going on.
Yeah, I wouldn't say McGregor's involvement is imbuing me with a great sense of goodwill towards the event, I have to say. And not to talk about Katie Taylor as a brand or a sports person as a brand, but for the purposes of the point, she is probably the most revered sporting brand in and of herself in the country. You know, any of those polls about the most admired sports person, she would top that list. So, I mean, her and McGregor are just poles apart in terms of their general behaviour, and yet they're very comfortable teaming up for this one. It's just another kind of
well, his pub
aspect.
And his stout are going to be linked to this forevermore. I think it's probably going to be around the ring apron, and I believe Eddie Hearn is going to his pub later this week, and I think Ariel Hawani is due to go there, possibly even to do a podcast or a fan meet and greet during the week. So I'm sure we're going to see lots of videos of Conor McGregor being closely associated with this fight. And even earlier this week, Conor McGregor was continuing his claim that he would help to pay for the security if that was enough to get the Croke Park fight over the line. So I think he's going to be incredibly linked with Katie Taylor over the next few months. Already is. I mean, this goes back to about 4 years ago. I remember after the Cindy Serrano fight, Conor McGregor had got pictures taken with Katie Taylor and had been gushing in his praise about Taylor at the time. So I think he's very clearly tried to align himself with the Katie Taylor story over the last 3 to 4 years as well.
Just to note as well, by the way, the fight is on DAZN, so I suspect, people akin to the GAA Go situation, they worry about it when it's on the date. Why do I watch that? And then they may be in for a bit of a rude surprise, potentially just working on the assumption that there'll be a free-to-air aspect within the Republic. Perhaps it'll turn up on RTE or Virgin or TG Car. No, it'll be on DAZN. So
Katie Taylor wouldn't be fighting this weekend, Joe, if it wasn't for the deal that Matchroom had signed with DAZN. This date was very much penciled in that they wanted a big title fight to be on this weekend. Like, there's no way they would have wanted to have this, if you were planning it out, on the same weekend as the Heineken Champions Cup final. And the Serrano fight may well have happened if they had to use this slot. Yeah,
it is a pity though it's not free to air, I have to say. It feels like for the homecoming that it is, you would like if it was going to be seen by the whole country. Like,
that level of boxing can't exist without the paid TV element though.
No, I know, but even
can't.
Within the Republic, almost some kind of territorial rights. Sometimes you have that where like, to use a very separate example, but if you take the European Tour in golf, it's very much on Sky Sports, with the exception of the country that it's on in. So RTE have tended to cover the Irish Open. The Italian Open would have been on Italian TV, and for everybody else it's on paywall. And I don't know how many people in Ireland have DAZN, but it wouldn't be an insurmountable number for DAZN to cope with. But
there's some fighters here I'd really like to see as well, Joe. I mean, this is a homecoming fight as well for Dennis Hogan, we mentioned earlier, who was in this very studio earlier today, where he's made his name primarily in Australia. Cecilia Brackhouse, one of the other big stars of professional women's boxing, is on the card defending a title. And now, as of about 24 hours ago, Paddy Donovan has signed for Matchroom Boxing from Top Rank. So Andy Lee's big prospect, who was being talked about becoming a big star in the States, is now going to box under the Eddie Hearn banner for the next while, and he's been added to that card as well. So there's plenty of fighters outside of Taylor that I'd like to see. Is it enough for me to pay $9.99? We shall see how I feel later in the week.
Oh, you will.
I probably will, Joe.
Professional obligation.
But will everyone pay out a tenner to see it? I'm not so sure.
Maybe not. Colin says, Jesus lads, can we not just celebrate the fight for what it is? Forget the outside noise. I mean, the outside noise is pretty loud, Colin. You go and you celebrate the fight. That's not really our job, to be honest. So we're covering the thing in its totality. We will talk plenty about the fight as well as the outside noise with Gavin Casey in the next 15 minutes or so. We should start the news round. Huge game, obviously, at the Etihad. The news round is brought to you with Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now. Teams are in ahead of Manchester City against Real Madrid.
Yeah, Man City's treble hopes could well go up in smoke tonight. They resume level at a goal apiece with reigning champions Real Madrid in the second leg of their Champions League semi-final. City made 3 changes from the weekend, but they are ultimately unchanged from the first leg at the Bernabeu. Just to remind you of that team, it's Ederson in goal, a back three of Kyle Walker, Ruben Diaz and Manuel Akanji. John Stones joins Rodri at the base of the midfield. In front of them, you have Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Ilkay Gundogan and Jack Grealish. Erling Haaland starts up front. One change for Real, it's in their defence. The unsuspended now Eder Militao returns in defence. Antonio Rudiger drops to the bench. So they line out with Thibaut Courtois between the sticks. Dani Carvajal, Eder Militao, David Alaba and Eduardo Camavinga are their back four. The tried and tested Luka Modric, Toni Kroos and Federico Valverde are across the midfield. And it's the front three of Rodrigo, Vinicius Jr. and Karim Benzema. Kickoff is at 8 p.m.
So looking forward to this for so many reasons. I think the image which summed up the first leg was Kyle Walker in a game respects game kind of moment, going up to Vinicius and 2 hands in the air, let's high five this. That was good fun. Akin to 2 boxers, to go with the theme of the evening.
He was saying his reaction was because he tried to rainbow flick him.
Yeah.
I didn't think Vinny would even try and do that, but he did.
It was like, I don't want to become a meme. Don't do that to me. But it was very good natured, and so they'll go at it again in a great way. Every matchup on this pitch is just so interesting. Like the Modric, Kroos, Valverde versus Rodri, Gundogan, De Bruyne is amazing. Grealish versus Carvajal again is so interesting. Chatting to Kenny last week, he felt Grealish got into too much of a personal battle with Carvajal, and where Grealish has been so good this year has been not doing that and drawing a man or two and then slipping the pass, as opposed to, I really want to beat Carvajal, I want to win this battle. But then Grealish himself was saying, like, all week people were saying to me, you know, around the team, you know what Carvalho's going to be like, and you could do this and you do that. So, he was very pumped up for it. Not to mention, I mean, who could forget the armpit sniffer himself versus Erling Haaland, and then at the other end, Benzema against Diaz. So it's just so well set up. You would kind of think first goal has a big say here. If Madrid score, you can really imagine them sitting deep, frustrating City, using all the know-how to make this a stop-start game.
City get a little bit jittery and think, here
all
we go
of that
again.
stuff. Yeah, here we go again. City score first and Madrid have to come out and play a bit more. That's a very scary prospect for Madrid. So, buckle up. This can't but be good.
Yeah, and I thought Rudiger against Haaland was an interesting battle last week. There was a good physical battle between both of them, but I can understand entirely why they would want to get Eder Militao back into the team when he's available. Camavinga, it seems, is staying at left back.
Oh, sorry. I'm completely wrong about Rudiger. He's out.
He's on the bench, yeah. We listened to Richie a few minutes ago. When
Sorry,
he said,
Jesus, Joe.
I was scanning the City team. I just presumed Rudiger would be in there.
Oh.
No, Militao's unsuspended. He was suspended for the first leg, wasn't he? He's back in.
What more does Rudiger have to do?
I know. I thought he had a good game last week, but there is that feeling definitely with Ancelotti in recent months that Camavinga provides the protection behind Vinicius Jr. to allow Vinicius to do what he does down in that left wing. And on the right-hand side, they've gone a little bit more attacking in recent months with Rodrigo's good form, where generally Fede Valverde found himself over on that side in big games, but they've gone for Rodrigo. So Madrid have gone to try and stretch the Man City defence by putting 2 wide attackers that are very good cutting in. And so he needs a little bit of defensive security behind them.
So does Militao put his head in Haaland's armpit now? What is the tactic here? I'm very curious about this dynamic.
I'm not sure Militao will get involved in the same way. I think Militao prefers to be, he lets Alaba do a lot of the attacking, and he's more the kind of stopper and sweeper within that centre-back combination. But that is their first choice centre-back duo, so Ancelotti is going back to the tried and tested, and there's huge experience across that midfield, as you've already mentioned, Joe. And I said to you a couple of nights ago, you never write off Real Madrid, and they've put in some huge performances away from home this season. Dennis
in Ballina rightly pointing out Carlo Ancelotti, lads, is 2 games away from possibly winning a 7th European Cup as player/manager. I know. I mean, he's in the most disrespected way imaginable, putting together the greatest career in the history of football.
And also in the most disrespected way possible, the vibes out of Madrid are, if he loses tonight, he probably loses his job as well, because they didn't retain the league this season.
But they'll give it to him again in 3 years' time when they're back in crisis. We'll take Everton's Carlo Ancelotti, they'll say. Jesus, lads, would you not give Will the evening off to go to the under-20 finals? It's John on YouTube. No.
Well, I'm going to
work-life balance is not something that we're au fait with here.
No, I'm going to watch it at 7:30. I couldn't get a ticket. It's sold out.
Is it?
Yeah, Dr. Cullen Park was sold out for tonight's game. Wexford and Offaly, two groups of supporters, Joe, who are itching for a little bit of success, so therefore everyone was coming out. But
Starved there.
Yeah. Conor McGregor's influence on this Katie fight is ... regrettable, to say the least, says Jason in Dublin. So Luton Town are
Luton await the winners. Yeah, they are. They're waiting the winners of tonight's Championship playoff semi-final. Middlesbrough and Coventry are goalless after their first leg with an 8 p.m. start tonight at the Riverside. Coventry given a boost ahead of kick-off with manager Mark Robbins agreeing a new 4-year contract there. Chelsea can go top of the WSL tonight if they win away to West Ham. Second half is about to get underway in the other game there this evening. Arsenal 4-0 up away to Everton. Katie McCabe scoring the second of those goals for Arsenal tonight. And the Republic of Ireland under-17s opened the European Championship campaign with a heavy defeat today. Despite taking a 5th-minute lead through Shamrock Rovers' Ike Arazi, Colin O'Brien's side went on to lose 5-1 to Poland. They'll face Wales in their second Group A match on Saturday.
Ivan Toney, Rich.
Yeah, the Brentford striker has been suspended from all football and football-related activity for 8 months after breaking Football Association betting rules. The England international admitted to 232 breaches between February of 2017 and January of 2021. Tony's also been fined £50,000. The 27-year-old can't train with his teammates until September 17th, and he can't resume playing until mid-January.
Yeah, it was always going to come in that form, I suppose, that ban.
yeah, it's obviously...
It's an ugly look for England too, to be fair. Like, because Gareth Southgate called him up with this thing looming. Now, and I know there's a presumption of innocence unless found guilty, but if you've got 232 charges hanging over you, you're either going to get away with all of them or none. It's like what Southgate was thinking. It looked bad then, it looks worse now. And he kind of gets what he deserves with this ban, I guess.
What about, for instance, 115 charges in a separate issue?
What's Richie's level here?
Well, yeah. I'd like, yeah, like.
No, that's all right. That's all I need.
I know it's a separate case. But again, I know you touched on it at length with Gavin last night in the football show. The fact that that's not a massive asterisk already besides Manchester City season is quite something, because it deserves to be there and deserves to hang over them until that's brought to a natural conclusion one way or the other.
There is going to be an inquiry or a review, certainly, of what's going on in Kildare Camogie.
Yeah, an independent review into the participation and preparation of Kildare Camogie sides will take place. It follows what's been described as the very difficult decision to withdraw Kildare from this year's Intermediate All-Ireland Championship. Members of the panel, the GPA, the Camogie Association and the Kildare Camogie Executive all met last night. The outcome, as I say, them withdrawing from the championship, looking into a review. But word out there that the players went into that meeting looking to continue on in the championship. So what went on in the intervening minutes, it would be interesting to find out.
Yeah. It sure will. I hope the report is published, or certainly a finding with a bit of detail is published, because it was a very strange situation, to say the least. Meanwhile, staying with GAA, we mentioned... The
aforementioned,
will not be there.
No, Offaly trying to win a first Leinster under-20 hurling title since the year 2000 tonight. They take on Wexford in that provincial decider. There's a 7:30 start at Netwatch Cullen Park. The winners are going to play Cork in the All-Ireland final.
Will Offaly win?
I don't know.
Is this a golden generation?
It very possibly is a golden generation, but it's an incredibly young team who are playing. So 6 of the starters tonight would have played on the team in the All-Ireland minor final. So that just gives you a feeling there's 17 playing in an under-20 final, which is a big ask. Cormac Egan potentially could make an interesting piece of history as well. People don't remember he was the mulleted forward who was the key player on the All-Ireland under-20 football winning team in 2021. He's playing hurling this year with the under-20 team, and he could become an under-20 provincial winner in both codes, which would be a great achievement if he was to do so. But I was really impressed by how Wexford played against Kilkenny a couple of weeks ago. Was watching the Offaly game here when we were chatting on the Newsround, and I watched the Wexford game at the weekend. I thought Wexford were really, really good. So I think Offaly will be mild underdogs going into it, and there's a feeling that team is maybe building for a year or two's time. But it is definitely a very good generation of players. A
question which is a touch inside baseball, esoteric, but you'll know the whereabouts of Offaly hurling. Back in the day, the golden generation, like the Dignan team, that was largely 2 clubs, wasn't it? Rhinas and Burr.
It was actually clubs who were in a kind of a 10 to 12 mile radius of Birr at the time, but spread a remarkable amount beyond that. Where
that was my next question. So these days, it's not still...
No.
Okay.
Michael Duggan's current club, where he had been chairman in recent years with his own lads playing on the team. Brian's on the senior team currently, but Ballymere Duro are providing quite a bit of that team right now, including, people probably remember Jim Troy in 1994, would have been the goalkeeper that year against Limerick. His son is in goal for this under-20 team. His club would now be Ballymere Duro. Again, Michael Duggan's kids have played for Ballymere Duro, but the spread has been a lot wider. And even unusually, and this is very inside at the moment, Ballyshannock had a player on the minor football team that got to the semi-final last night. They beat Louth. Last minute was kicked by a player who's as far from the football stronghold as possible within the county. So the spread has definitely been interesting in the last 4 or 5 years. And even places like Edenderry, where hurling had gone down to a very low ebb, have got back hurling again at underage. So you need that in a small county.
It's kind of a remarkable thing that those two clubs produced so many in that era. It was kind of wild. Rich, before we run out of time, you have some of certainly Chantal Cameron talking today ahead of the fight.
She's criticised the pricing around her unification bout with Katie Taylor this Saturday. The undisputed super lightweight champion is the opponent for Taylor's first ever pro bout on home soil. Resale tickets for the Three Arena have been priced in the thousands, and Cameron says it puts fight fans in a tricky position.
Yeah, especially with the living crisis. I think prices were pretty steep because I know a lot of people wanted to come over. The hotels are obviously ridiculous money. Then there's flights, and then there's the hotels. So a little bit steep, but just a shame for the massive boxing fans that can't afford it, because the life is hard at the moment. People can't afford to splurge on that sort of thing where you can sit at home and watch it on TV. But it's a shame for the general public that just want a good night, and it's his history as well. So it's a bit of a shame. I do feel for the people that would have wanted to be here, but obviously the prices were ridiculous.
Last story or two, Rich?
Yeah, Munster have given a squad update after their URC semi-final win over Leinster. Both Ben Healy and Jean Klein will follow return-to-play protocols this week, having taken knocks to the head at the Aviva. It is hoped the pair will be fit to travel with the rest of the squad to Cape Town early next week. And Pascal Ackermann won today's 11th stage of the Giro d'Italia, getting the best of a sprint into Tortona. Geraint Thomas retains the leader's pink jersey with a 2-second lead over Primož Roglic. And Eddie Dunbar moves up 2 places to 7th on general classification. That's after Tao Geoghegan Hart crashed out today. Thomas and Roglic were also involved in that incident, but managed to recover. Dunbar 2 minutes and 32 seconds behind the lead of the Welshman. And Conor McGoldrick of Trek Richardson won today's opening stage of the Ross Talchin. He pipped Dan Gardner to the finish line. Again, it's awfully around this news round in Birr. Foil Cycling's Joe Laverick was 3rd this afternoon.
Very good. Richie, thank you.
Nice one, lads.
Will, thanks, Mo.
Cheers, lads.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's cash machine.
Now rollover, so the new amount is €50,385 and 63 cents.